All right, here is speedrun of Lost Instructions, the Lambdas and VBA I'm using. The file is available for download at the link below. Go. All right. So my VBA makes these little sheets for each question, for each level. I'm going to need to know what the question number, I need the row number, and I'm going to need the answer, right? So the question is going to be kept from here, right? The row number, I need to know row numbers of each answer. So I just, use this built-in row function here. Do that, maybe unmerge that while I'm at it. So now if I look up the question number here, returning on the answer, the row numbers, gives me the row numbers. The answers I'm going to put here. First, I need the players, which is a sequence with 1 row and 25 columns. Nope, other way around, 25 rows and 1 column. Those are the players. And here is each player's guess. So X indirect, same as indirect, but not volatile. H27 is the sheet name, right? Exclamation mark E, because it's row E always, and column E always, and the row number is from there. There are all the guesses. I gotta lock in the row number, of course, F4. And then the correct answer is just looking up this player number. And whatever their guess is, that's the correct answer. And the correct answer to the question is the correct answer to the question also. Level 1's done. All right, copy over that. This is going to be the same thing, but it's going to be the count of players with the correct answer. So this tells me if they're correct or not. So if this guess equals the answer locked, then 1, otherwise 0. So sum up who's correct. And that's level 2. All right, level 3. This is the sum of all player numbers, right? So this is correct player number, right? So if the answer is correct, then the player number, otherwise nothing. Sum up the corrected player numbers, and that's level 3. All right, for level 4, I got to see if someone is in a player list, right? So in list. So I'm going to bring this list out a bit. So I got to text split the list by comma. So I use my exists lambda. So if in that array the player number exists, then it is there. I've got to lock this. Player number does not get locked. Bring that down. Oh, and these have got to be converted to numbers. So there we go. So now to find the correct answer, I look up 0, right, who's not in the list. And whichever player is not in the list is the one who has the correct answer. So their answer is correct. So the sum of player numbers who have the correct answer is the answer to that question. All right, most frequent guess for all players, right? So this is just simply the frequency of the guess. So count if in this range that, so that's how many people made each guess. So then the correct answer is I use my biggest lambda, which finds the maximum of this and returns the guess, right, is what I'm looking for, because that's the correct answer. Then the answer to the The big question is the sum of the players who have the correct answer. That's level 5. Level 6 is we average the guesses for the people in the list. So here, this is guess in list. So if you are in the list, then we put your guess, otherwise we put nothing. All right, so we do that. And then the average of that is something, if I spell average correctly, is that. So again, the correct player numbers, we add up the player numbers that have the correct answer to get level 6 answer. Level 7, finally. I also want to know if you are divisible by a number, but if this number is 0, then I got to look for prime numbers. So if that number is 0 and that number's got to stay locked, right? Then I have to look exists, and I have a list of prime numbers in my template. So if in my locked prime number list, the player number is in it, right? That's going to be 1 or no for the prime numbers, otherwise for the zeros. Otherwise, I want to see if this number is divisible, right? So if the player number is divisible by this given number locked, right? So if that is true, then 1, otherwise 0. All right, so this tells us who's divisible. And then this is the game number in list. But now, in addition to being in the list, you've also got to be in the special list of divisibles, right? So that's there. And these are here. Is this right? 2, 4, 6, 8 up through 14. Yeah, this is not right. So if the mod of this equals 0, right? Not, as I'm looking, that's the reverse of what I want. So if the mod of that equals 0, then it's divisible. Okay, so now I've got it right. So the sum of, the players' numbers who've got it right is there. That's level 7. All right, so now we're going to do bonuses. Going to move this over to my all games tab here. I've got 1,000 points so far. Everything we've done is right. So I've got this all games tab that I'm going to use because I got to look at all games for the bonuses. I need to put the answers here. So first I'm going to set this to just tell me the answers, right? Level 1 was already like that. And I got to turn on my what if table. Like that. All of these are the answers for each level. And the what if table is on. So now I got to look them up, right? So I look up the game number on the game numbers, right? Returning the answers. And this is the same for all the levels, but I got to tell it what level to look at. So level 2. Level 3. Level 4. Level 5. Six. And finally, level 7. Okay. All right, so now I don't need this stuff. This is just to help me figure out the answers that I have already. now I need a sequence of 1 row and 25 columns. These are my player numbers and I want their guesses. So, oh, I need the row numbers too. So if I look up these aren't really the answers, these are the row numbers. I'm just putting them here. So if I look up the game number here and return these row numbers, right, that's going to give me what row each one is in. So now the guess is X indirect, which is my special custom indirect. Regular, it's the same as a regular indirect, but non-volatile. G1 is going to tell me the sheet, the one's got to be locked. Exclamation mark E, because it's always column E, and the row number, and that D has got to be locked because it's always D. All right, and there's my guesses. Put that there. You know, make a little nice little color for that. And then over here, I want to check if they're right or not. So again, I'm going to make a sequence that's 1 row and 25 columns. And for each of these, so if the person's guess equals the correct answer, F is locked, right? Because the correct answer is always there. Then not 1, because you get a certain number of points. C is also locked. Otherwise, you get 0 point. Otherwise, you get, let's say, nothing points. So I can use count in a minute to count the number of people who have correct answers without having to specify grade 0. All right, so here's correct and non-correct answers. So this, I'm going to need to know what games, how many people got each game right, how many points did they get, and who got the most ones right and who got the most points. All right, so this is the number of people who got each game correct. This is the number of people, this is the number of correct answers for each player. All right. And then finally, make sure I did that right. Oh, and then finally, this, instead of count, I'm going to do sum. And that's going to give me the score for everybody on this case. So how many games did player 1 get correct on level 1? That is simply, you know, the count of player 1 on level 1 is just these 3s. All right, so 6 answers correct. Which game did only 1 player get correct in level 4? Right, so I need a game that only 1 player got correct, and it's in level 4, and that's game 78. So 78. One game number that all players got correct. So make this 25, right? So 97, all 25 players got it correct. How many points did the winning player get? And how many questions correct did the winning player get? Well, let's see. It's the max of AF2 to, I don't know, ZZ2, let's say. All right, so 428 and 60. Points, 428. Answers, 60. Score, 1250. Done. All right, a few lambdas. So 1347 on my speed run. I mean, a few lambdas that I used here. Right, I used biggest. I used exists, right, which looks in the array to find a value. I used, so exists, I used biggest, which just looks in one array, gives me the other. And of course, I used X indirect, which is exactly the same thing as regular indirect, only it does not, it doesn't volatile, it doesn't recheck itself every time you do anything in the world. Those first two are lambdas. The other one is VBA. As far as I know, you have to do that in VBA. These also, right, they got the done and the copy. So done, right, I take my example solution and it turns it into a what if table for all the questions and paste it in. Copy just copies one level to the next. And that's all I used. Thanks for watching.